The Supreme Court's ruled 6-3 that Trump's tariffs are unconstitutional. Not all of them, but the ones that he imposed using the 1977 law from the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Those were struck down, which is good because the executive branch does not have the authority to raise tariffs. That's tariffs or taxes, and the legislative branch is the one with the power to tax. It says Article 1, Section 8, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. So it says pretty clear right there. There's nothing in Article 2, which it gives the power to the executive branch. There's nothing in there about issuing any tariffs or taxes. So the ruling was issued by Chief Justice John Roberts, who is a Bush appointee, and then there were two other conservatives that split off, and that was Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, both of them being put in by Donald Trump. Now, in the ruling, John Roberts said, the president asserts the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. And he says, but the Trump administration points to no statute in which Congress has previously said that the language in the IEEPA could apply to tariffs. As such, we hold that IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, Roberts wrote. And then the ones that dissented against this was Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh, and Samuel Alito. And, that's unfortunate because usually Clarence Thomas is pretty good with the Constitution, and this is just it's pretty clear, I think, that it's unconstitutional, and it's bad precedent. If you're a supporter of Donald Trump and you wanted these tariffs to go through, you got to think about the dangerous precedent that you're setting. To give taxing powers to the executive branch, could you imagine if we get some radical environmentalist in there, that wants to push green energy and they want to just push green taxes and green tariffs on everything, taxes on all products they think are harmful to the environment, taxes on gasoline vehicles, that's not something that we would want. And now Trump's going to use this ruling as an excuse for any future economic failures. They're going to claim that anything that happens is because the SCOTUS shot down these tariffs, and all these tariffs were so great. They acted like tariffs were a miracle. Like our country had tariffs. That was primarily the income for the federal government for a long time, where it was tariffs. But the Trump administration wanted to act like this was a miracle solution, and even though it was only going to bring in approximately $300 billion a year, and I'm not saying that $300 billion a year isn't a lot, but when your budget the budget deficit last year was $1.78 trillion. So even with those tariffs applied, that brings the budget deficit down to approximately $1.5 trillion. That's nowhere near close to a balanced budget. And they were talking all this fantastical nonsense, like they were going to use tariffs to give people checks. They were calling it the tariff dividend. They were going to give people these checks. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, that would basically have eaten up almost all of the tariff revenue. So how would that have even been much of a benefit? And then there was even, I heard them talking all this BS saying that they were going to eliminate the income taxes with the tariffs. And the tariff revenue just wasn't that much. But again, this gives Trump another scapegoat. He'll either blame Too Late Pal for not cutting interest rates at the Fed, or he'll blame the SCOTUS for shutting down his tariffs. Regardless, this will work. Trump's going to use this as a way to basically justify any failures of his economic policies. And unfortunately, some of the tariffs are still in effect, like the ones on steel and aluminum, because they were imposed by Trump's interpretation of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act. So this means that those tariffs are still in effect. So you're still going to have the increased cost on construction and other sectors, which is bad. So Trump wants housing prices, Trump wants housing prices to stay elevated, but most people want housing prices to come down because people that don't have a home want to buy a home. Well, if you want the home prices to come down, the only way you're going to get housing prices down is to increase supply. So you're going to need more houses. So you're going to need more steel, aluminum, lumber, these raw materials. You're going to need those to build more houses. And the Cato Institute notes here You know, during Trump's first term, he invoked Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 to hit China and impose steel and aluminum tariffs. Yet U.S. law provides other tools that have largely escaped notice. Two lesser-known provisions, Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974 and Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930, could let the administration continue its tariff onslaught even without IEEPA. And some of the articles I've seen, Trump and them are saying like, oh, we're going to try a different approach. So this is probably what they're talking about. But either way, getting the tariffs shut down for now are good. I would like Trump to back off from them, but clearly he's not. So we'll see what happens. But again, tariffs are a tax. They're not good. All they do is raise the cost on the American consumer. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment.